The following are excerpts from a presentation that David Hurst might give to an organization like yours.
Well, good afternoon and thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you here to be talking about your organization, about strategy, leadership, and change. I learned fairly soon in my business career that organizations don't change when they want to, they change when they have to. And it wasn't just me and the organizations I was with. As I looked around me, I looked at companies, I looked at public sector organizations, and in every case, meaningful change only seemed to take place in times of crisis. And when I looked around to see if there were any other examples of this, I found them in nature. So today we're going to be looking at some natural systems, some natural ecologies, and we're going to be drawing the parallels between them and business organizations. I'm going to be looking at organizations as natural systems, which of course they are. What I found was that nature only changes in times of crisis. In fact, nature uses crisis to change herself. Every ecology uses something, whether it's fire or insects or disease or hurricanes, cyclones, whatever, uses crisis to change. And so we're going to be taking a closer look at that this afternoon. There are two factors that disturb natural systems. The first of them, of course, is fear of death, and we're all familiar with that. The second factor is, of course, promise of sex, and I know many of us spend our time thinking about that one. If they're large corporate elephants, of course, there is golf, which can also disturb them. Unfortunately, this afternoon, we're not going to have any time to talk about golf, and I'm not going to be talking about fear of death. And so, with your permission, I'm going to concentrate on number two, except it won't be promise of sex, it will be a creative opportunity. This afternoon you will have a creative opportunity to look at your organization in a rather different way than you thought about it before. To look at the kinds of situation you're in, the kinds of strategies you are using, and the kind of leadership you're going to need to take you forward into a sustainable future. I'm going to be using a different framework this afternoon from any you might be familiar with. You all know about economics, dear old Adam Smith. Economics, of course, is all about competition, it's about equilibrium, it's about the economy, and it's good stuff. I don't want to knock economics. But this afternoon I'm going to be looking at the world through the lens of ecologics, the science of large systems, you might say. It deals with reciprocity. I give something to you and you give something to me. This is the glue that holds organizations together. The informal exchanges of favors. Without that, no organization could function effectively. We're going to be talking about cooperation as well as competition, because firms do compete with each other, of course, but they also cooperate in many different ways. We're going to be talking about evolution, development, progression, as well as equilibrium. And we're going to be talking about community as well as economy. I'm going to suggest that community is the soil in which entrepreneurship grows. And entrepreneurship and innovation is an important part of making our economic growth sustainable. So if economics is the science of either or, then ecologics is the science of both and. Both competition and cooperation. Both equilibrium and evolution. Both economy and community. I now want to take you off to look at another natural system. I want to look at a forest. In fact, we're going to look at the birth, growth, destruction, and renewal of a forest. We start off somewhat arbitrarily bottom left, the open patch. For whatever reason, there's an open patch in this forest, equal access to sun and rain. As a result, everything comes into this open patch. The only rule is that you have to be a migrant to make your way into this open patch. You see, this is our first lesson from the forest ecology, is that to discover new opportunities you have to move. You have to be a migrant. Animals that get territorial, that protect particular areas, don't find new things. Migrants do. And so here we have migrant birds, migrant plants coming into this open patch. There's equal access to sun and rain here. As a result, everything grows. And in the beginning, there's no competition. There's resources for all, and they grow like crazy. We call them weeds, of course, if they appear on our lawn, but that's what weeds are. They are entrepreneurs. In fact, I like to think that the recent dot-com boom was a weedy outbreak in our corporate ecology. Lots of resources, small-scale experimentation, everything growing like crazy, and in the beginning, very little competition. But after a while, the plants start to bump into each other. They can no longer make it on their own. They have to compete. They have to sink deep roots to get to the water first. They have to put up branches and leaves to get to the sun before anybody else. And in short, they have to start to develop scale. They have to get bigger. And so here you see a typical forest succession, starting with the weeds, going through to shrubs, small trees, small bushes, and eventually the forest culminates in the large softwood trees and eventually hardwood trees. We see the same kind of development in all systems. There's increasing competition, which leads to increasing efficiency, leads to increasing size, increasing scale, but at the same time, much less variety. When a forest grows up and you have nothing but trees, they take the sun, they take the rain, they don't allow much to grow underneath them. And it's just the same in the corporate